again. This is another interview that I'm here realizing at the Congress, but this one I think is the most special for me out of all, because I am with Kerry Cassidy. I can't believe it. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. It's really so important what you're doing, I think, and I can't believe that I have this privilege to be able to ask you a few questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, my first question. The process of all these interviews, you started in 2007, right? And you are still continuing. 2007, 2008, more or less?
Actually, 2006.
Oh, okay.
But what happened was YouTube wiped our whole channel off.
Oh, I didn't know.
After 1 year of operation, they disappeared our videos.
Did they ever tell you why?
No, it supposedly some kind of glitch. We don't know, but we think that it was the CIA or whatever targeting our project.
And you had all your videos backed up, or did you?
Yes, we had to re-upload them. So, but all of those, you know how you get the number of views?
Of course.
Went to zero.
Oh my gosh.
So after the first year, you think we started in 2007, but we started in 2006.
Interesting piece of information. I didn't know that detail.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know, because you keep continuing interviewing people and getting information, which interview or which witness or which piece of information has impacted you the most in the last 10 years? Like, if you have to think about, make a summary of all this journey, which sticks out to you the most? Which you think is most important? Which witness or information?
Okay, well, it would be in the last maybe 13 years, because it's more long that we've been involved. But gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to think what would make the biggest impact. You know, it's such a large picture. It's always growing, and I am amazed by the depth of this field. So it really encompasses everything that it has to do with being human, and also with being ET. And so I cannot say one thing. It's just it's impossible to say one thing that has most impressed me. I can say that I am so sure of my information at this time that I know the information I have is true about, you know, the secret space program and about the various ET races, and the overall big picture I am sure of. And, you know, that's a lovely thing to know.
So I understand there is no one specific thing, but I do think you have a special affinity with Bob Dean, huh? You always
oh, absolutely. But this is a wonderful witness, you know, but people say to me, you know, which witness is most important, and I can't say, because, again, they're all so important. And certain ones are very, you know, I don't know, it could be like, you could say, like Hollywood. Some are blockbusters and some are smaller films, you know, but they're all very interesting in their own right, that kind of thing.
And now, if not talking about the witnesses, what do you think, which kind of information that has come out would be the most important for the humanity in your investigation?
Well, the fact that we have a predator, you know, that we are actually considered prey. In other words, that we have a predator that is after us, that eats our children, lives off of us, and puts us in danger. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I have heard your last interview just prior to ours. That you were talking about the predator race, the race of the extraterrestrials that are here to dominate us, but. Do you associate the extraterrestrial presence just with that, or with the other side also? Or is it important to include?
Oh, it is. To me, we always have two sides. So I'm very aware of also the very beautiful ETs and the very beautiful consciousnesses out there, as well as the negative. So I don't to me, you know, people say, oh, you talk about this negative thing all the time. And actually, to me, I wake up in the morning and I'm very excited to be alive, and I think life is very challenging. And when I have a new sort of investigation, then I'm even more, you know, involved and very excited. And this makes life worth living, really. The mystery, to try to investigate the mystery of life, you might say.
Exactly, to explore. Where do you think the Pleiadians fit into the picture?
Well, I think the Pleiadians are an interesting race of beings, and I do feel related to them. So I have a new witness that claims to be Pleiadian, and he's telling us a lot of information about the Pleiadians we haven't had before. So that's fascinating. It's going to be hard to prove it, but I think eventually we will prove this kind of thing. So I think the Pleiadians are fascinating. I did have an interesting personal experience with them.
That's my next question.
In my early days in Camelot, we went to visit Billy Meyer at his land in Switzerland, and he wouldn't answer the phone and give us an interview. So we actually, one Sunday, we just decided to go there to his property and just show up and see if we could knock on the door and ask. Because it's not really, I mean, it wasn't just his house, it was a whole compound, so to speak. So we went there, and we got to talk to somebody who works for him, but we never got to talk to him. But what happened was we took photographs everywhere, you know how people do. And of all the photos I've taken of all the years I've been taking photographs, and I'm a photographer and, you know, all that. And I have one, it's the only one that ever happened, and it's a picture of me standing next to the silver star. There was an emblem in silver, a big emblem at the gate of Billy Meyer's residence, and it said, you know, the silver star, and that's the Pleiadian star. Anyway, so the whole photograph turned out silver. I am silver, everything's silver, and no other photograph is like that I've ever taken in all the years I've been doing Camelot. And I think it is said, you know, that he had dealings with the Pleiadians and that they had a sense of humor.
Oh, yes.
And for some reason, the information came through that they're trying to let me know that I'm one of them. So
you are one of them?
Yeah, so I got this message.
Have you yourself had the contact with the Pleiadians or anybody else?
You know, I don't know. I have contact because I'm always in contact with beings. In fact, I download information even when I'm doing interviews sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes a question will come to me out of the blue. I have no thought about it, and it just gets delivered into my head. Other things happen. I get information all the time, all the time. You know, like last night I might get information. They'll tell me what's going to happen in the future. Sometimes it'll be short-term information, sometimes long-term information. And so I am in touch with beings. However, I don't know their identities, you know. I don't, no, it's not completely clear. I can tell you that I traveled to India with Ashana Dean, who is in touch with what she calls the guardian races, which is a group of different races of beings. And I imagine Pleiadians are among them. At any rate, when I was on the trip, I started to get downloads of things she was going to say before she said them. And then she would say them, and I would realize that I already got that information, and it happened quite a bit. So I know that for some reason I was in sync with all of that. So I get information, you know.
But now, do you ever include your own information in your videos? Do you talk about your own insights and information coming from your contacts, or is
yes, I do. But I use it to sort of guide me, if you want to call it that, in my interview or in my life. And so I find it very valuable. I think I'm always open to this. I think it's because when I was a kid, I was very open to other worlds, to not just concentrating on the world that you see around you. I was always listening. I was always very interested in the unseen world, and I still am. So.
Great. By the way, Ashayana Neen, you know that I actually read her book because of your interview.
Good.
I didn't understand much from the interview
No.
because it was so complex.
Yes.
I had to repeat it twice.
Yes.
No, I'm joking. I didn't understand a lot, but
Sure.
it was very complex.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And
I've had to read her book several times to get. It's incredibly complex.
It is, but
yeah.
it's very new, very
But it's
interesting.
fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it connects a lot of things and it explains things in a nice way. And I'm still reading the Voyagers one. I haven't got my hands on the second one, but I am reading it because of your recommendation. So
lovely.
So that's great. Now you have mentioned during the Congress that you have received threats yourself. Can you tell us something more about that? And what is it that drives you onward despite the threats?
Well, I think I decided a long time ago as a soul that that life wouldn't be worth living if I couldn't be courageous, and if I couldn't be, as a famous writer says, hero of my own life. So I just decided that it was the most important thing, was to basically kind of have courage and go forward that way. So I'm sorry, what was the rest of the question?
What drives you onward despite the threats?
Oh, right, the threats. You wanted to know about the threats. So what happens is, in the early days of Camelot, we had a lot of flat tires, where your car could go out of control. We had a wheel. We went to the top of Grindelwald in Switzerland, and the entire wheel fell off, even though it had just had a checkup, and it was sliced at the, off. And it could have happened anywhere on the way up this windy road in the Alps, but it actually fell off right when we got to the very top, and we're going slowly in a parking lot to park the car. And therefore we weren't hurt. But we did know that was done purposely. We took it to a mechanic to find out. And, there have been other things. I have had some direct threats, actually. And it's again, what's the point if you are going to listen to the threats? I mean, I don't know. There have been threats where someone else's life was involved, and where I did back off the information, although I did release it in other ways. But I didn't want to put someone else in danger. So there was that issue. I am lucky in that I am single and I don't have any children. So perhaps if I was, had children, I might have a different point of view. But I'm not sure of that, because I do believe in the sovereignty of every soul, and that, we all I believe that we decide ahead of time what we want to do and who we want to be, and the beings that come incarnate together. In other words, all of that is decided by us. So I do fully believe that we participate. We're not victims, I guess, is the best way to put it. Yeah.
Now, what advice would you give to people? I think it's very important, because people are so hungry to know and explore, but they don't have the direct access to the witnesses and the information. They can only watch through YouTube, which is very important. But then they are bombarded with sometimes contrasting and contradicting information. Throw on top of that the disinformation. Here comes the Pleiadian contact that says one thing, and here there is something else that is not matching.
Right.
What advice do you give to these poor people? I feel for them, and their drive. They are waking up. They want to understand.
Yes.
But there's so much contrasting information. How do we help them?
Well, I think that meditation is very important. I think learning how to listen to yourself and to listen in. So, in other words, not everything is outside. So it's let's say you watch a video and something resonates. We call it resonates when it moves you. It engages your heart and your mind. and it plays on your mind for maybe several days later. In other words, I think trusting in that, because we are very intuitive. Humans are very, very psychic, much more psychic than we realize. And in fact, I think that people can read your mind so easily that you better be careful what you think when you walk by somebody, because eventually, a lot of times they'll get the message. Even though they don't even know they got the message, they get the message. So I think we're like antennas. We're very, very sensitive.
That's true. Always guarding our thoughts.
So I think, trusting in that is helps. It's very good.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, we are living in this force of the society, the matrix, right? The manipulation of the reality. Nothing is as it is.
Right.
What are the keys, practical keys for people to get out of the matrix, the practical keys for them to liberate themselves from the domination of the manipulation?
Well, I think it's important to pay attention to what you eat and the water you drink, and your contact with nature. Try to be in contact with nature every day. I think these help you, and stay in good physical shape. Your physical instruments, so to speak, because these are the receptors that are going to help you discern the truth and make your way through life. But I think keeping a good heart, an open heart, keeping a lightness about your life, laughter, and finding the joy in the people around you, and children, and good animals, and beautiful plants. In other words, understanding that we have challenges, but there's always beauty everywhere. Exactly. And you can find it in the smallest thing, And I think that can help you make it through your days and your life.
Very good. I love that. Yes, it's great. Now, I interviewed Stephen Bassett yesterday, and he talked about, I don't know if you saw his presentation. Did you see his presentation?
No, but I have interviewed him and seen him do a lot of presentations over the years.
He's talking about the possible disclosure in the beginning of the 2019, and he's betting on Russia a lot, on Putin.
Interesting.
Well, he's giving it maximum 2 years' time. He's talking about like I said, beginnings of 2019, Russia. What do you think about that? What's Camelot's take on this?
Well, first of all, I think we are the disclosers. So we are disclosing the truth as we go, and we've been doing it for many years. And I think this is where you get the real truth. I'm not looking for governments to sort of pat me on the head and say, yes, this is true, this is not. First of all, because if their lips are moving, they're probably lying, in my view. And there's lots of evidence of that. And also because, a lot of times if they did say something, it's very self-serving. So that means that, let's say if Putin does say that, then he is trying to get an advantage to make something possible for his country, and perhaps challenge the U.S. in one way or another. In other words, I do think disclosure is happening, and I think it will happen more and more. I do think also the ETs are pushing for disclosure at this time.
They are interested in disclosure?
Yes, I do. I think that, I think that a lot of ETs, both the good and bad, are kind of looking at humanity right now like, grow up already. We're like anxious to meet you and to deal with you face to face. And, they are dealing with us individually. But as a conscious, a whole consciousness, there are so many splits in our society. There was so much time wasted deciding that whether they exist or not. They exist, get over it, Let's move on and do some dealings with them,
Exactly. It's time.
That would make life so much more interesting.
Yes, it's time for us to do that. Now, for the overview, the last question, I don't want to saturate you with questions. What is your overall, like right now at this point of time, our geopolitical overview of the situation on Earth? You can include the extraterrestrial aspect.
Oh, well, yeah, you can't avoid it.
And you can include the Middle East situation in that too, but I think it's very important what's going on there too.
Well, I mean, I think it's complex. I really, sort of think as above, so below. I mean, you have to understand, I'm also listening to whistleblowers tell me what they think is happening right now, as well as, I filter in all the other information streams, which has to do with the news and my own intuitive information. For example, I think we are at an interesting juncture with regard to the volcanism. And I do think that they are triggering the volcanism. So we have evidence that the powers that be, the secret government, has a reason to be stimulating volcanoes right now. And even there is a company, I've got a researchers who's done a lot of good investigation, finding out that there's a company that is responsible for fracking near volcanoes in order to make them erupt more and faster. So I think there's a push for them, because consciousness is rising so quickly, to try to get us into a state of fear, to where we are back to what you call, sort of a survival instinct, to hand-to-mouth, sort of experience. So I think that's one thing. But I also think that, as I say, that we're having more and more contact with these various races. And I think consciousness is rising, and I think that's very exciting. Strangely, I have a very optimistic view of the future, but I have just been told very, negative things from one whistleblower, but this doesn't mean they're right. So I think it's very interesting that we're in a juncture where sometimes people that try to tell the truth may not really know the truth. But they are trying very hard, and their heart is in the right place. So I think it's a time when, one thing I'm noticing is if you make a plan, your plans change immediately. So we are moving into the fourth dimension, and the minute you think it can happen. And I think you have to be more flexible than you ever had to be before. And also not get upset over it. Like, roll with the punches very well at this time, because I see a lot of change happening very rapidly.
And so you think we are going toward the positive timeline?
I do, actually.
You are optimistic
I
about
can't
this.
help it. It's just maybe it's my nature, but
I think it's important that we do, because we are the creating
I believe in humanity.
Yes.
I believe in this experiment. I believe in all the beings that I meet and all the wonderful people that I see, and the beautiful children, and the beautiful animals. I do think very positively about the, humanity in the world.
And so do I. We have the same worldview, and I think it's important for you to at least consider and to embrace the positive outlook the same way. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure. I want to give you a hug. And I want to be in public.
All right.
Thank you so much. Kerry Cassidy, the warrior. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank